The timer can start the timing me, but first I want to ask you if if you're able to see my screen and the slides.
Perfect.
This was the first question. Question number 2. Have you ever felt dissatisfied by pathways? Okay,
More
you
confused.
don't have to raise your hand, but here I have a few examples of this dissatisfaction. Maybe you had a hard time setting a goal and thus planning for your success because you simply didn't know what's ahead of you. Maybe you started on a path, you went through a few levels, and then you realize you don't like it. You want another one, but there is no way to switch. Or maybe you felt that the online engine of the pathways, Toastmaster Pathways Basecamp is not user friendly. And because of this, you just keep dragging your feet when you need to start on a new project or when you need to enter your completion. If you answered yes on any of these questions, or maybe you have other complaints, don't worry, you're not alone. I felt the same, and believe me, I heard a lot of complaints, a lot of opinions about pathways when I was visiting other clubs. My impression about pathways is that we were given a very decent strategic tool which gives us an opportunity, or is supposed to give us an opportunity to continue growing in Toastmaster settings as communicators. But we still need to work on our tactics. We need to develop some sort of a tool which would work for us. And I can explain why I'm talking about it in our club. Actually, Toastmasters are based on mutual mentoring, on mutual coaching. We learn from and we teach each other. And if I personally don't have confidence that the educational program works for me, how can I teach others? So I want to share with you my personal approach to the way I work through pathways. And for the purpose of this talk, I called it a freeway to pathways. And I hope that with time, we all will work on this approach together and it will become an NPS freeway to pathways. And we will again get energized and inspired by the Toastmasters educational program. What this approach gives me is that I have a purpose and I still maintain the freedom the pathways is supposed to give me. And these two things, the purpose and the freedom, is based or are based on the competent communicator manual ideas. So I believe that this approach should alleviate, if not eliminate, this longing or nostalgia, which I personally feel for the competent communicator manual. I don't know about you, but I want to see your hands if you miss the competent communicator manual. I do. So for those of you who don't remember the competent communicator manual or maybe have never had a chance to work on it, I want to give a short refresher. So competent communicator manual was a rather small book. Remember how thin it actually was, but it was very rich. It led us from the very first speech we gave in Toastmasters, the icebreaker, through several stages when we built our skills as speech writers, speech crafters, and our speech delivery skills. How to write the speech and organize it, how to choose the right words, how to use our gestures, how to use the vocal variety to be more impressive and to get our point across, how to research our topic, get comfortable with visual aids, how to speak with power and persuade our audience. And at the end of this, or at the culmination, I don't want to use the word end, at culmination of this 10 speeches path was our graduation speech, how to inspire our audience. And we would always give the standing ovation to someone who stepped through all these 10 speeches and become so much better, being able to communicate ourselves to the world. I really missed this. I missed it when I started on Pathways. Why? Why would they decide to eliminate the competent communicator manual out of our educational program? Why there is none? Or is there? This is my freeway to Pathways. It is based on the presentation mastery, first 3-level speeches. There are 10 speeches overall. I arrange them in the sequence how we go through them by order from the first to second to third and so on. But I also align them with the competent communicator speeches. So as you can see, we still start with the icebreaker. We can learn how to craft our speeches, how to get to the point and organize our speeches, how we research our topic and get comfortable with visual aid in the researching and presenting project, how use the effective body language, vocal variety, descriptive language, how to inspire our audience, and in the end, give a persuasive speech. There are also a few additions to add, which are the introduction to Toastmasters mentoring and learning about our communication style. Again, we have this linear and ascending path if we give ourselves time and put some efforts into arranging this program for us. So this is actually what I suggest we all do when we start on a new path, or what we mentor a new member to do when they start on the path, to start working on this basic skill in a very diligent and organized manner, the same way we did when we worked through the competent communication manual. You probably have a few questions after you listen to my suggestion. What if I don't still, or what if I don't like, and when I hear don't like, listen to don't like, I actually hear hate, the online engine of the Basecamp. Well, I organized these speeches, the manuals, in the competent communicator manner using the PDF files I downloaded from the Basecamp. We can do it for everyone, or we can do it for someone else and have all these PDF files available to everyone who joins our club or start a new manual. We can also actually have, and we already do, and Lara can help, as VP can help each and every one of us to mark the completion of our project in the Basecamp if you don't want to use the online manuals. What if I work on another path, not on the presentation mastery? Well, the first 3 levels are almost the same in all paths, which means that we can use the information we have from the Basecamp. There is also a very detailed information about each of the paths is available on the district d101tm.org website, and line up this gradual building of the skills based on the path we have chosen. And here is my last question to you. Should we celebrate level 3 completion and of course level 5 with standing ovations? My answer is yes, but of course it's up to our club president and the executive committee to decide and bring this question back to us. Before I go back to you and let you ask me questions, I want to tell you a short story. Little mice came to a wise owl, asking her for a piece of advice. "Oh, wise owl, how could we avoid being eaten by a fox?" Oh, it is very easy, said the wise owl. All you need to do is to turn yourself into hedgehogs, because no one is going to eat an animal with prickles. Mice got really excited about it, so they asked the second question. This is a great piece of advice, but how do we do it? Well, said the owl, I gave you the strategy. It is up to you to figure out the tactics. Let's figure out the tactics and do it together. And now I'm open to your questions. Kyle.
Okay. Among all of my complaints, because I don't like it at all, not in the least, but so forget, and then add the fun of Zoom. But every single, let's just go simply with the pathways. Every single path, even for an advanced speaker, starts all over again with the icebreaker. Why can't we have advanced speakers skip that first little section? It's ridiculous.
I am with you, and I'm actually have a little bit different opinion. I also don't understand, honestly, why they decided to do it this way. I would be perfectly fine with doing things the way it was before. You do the basics and then you work on the advanced path. But I also, and Carl and Arnie and Fred and Art can correct me, but I have seen a lot of people in the legacy program who did 10 or more competent communicator manuals and never went beyond them. They kept working on their basic skills without the need of doing any fancy projects. I think this is why probably Toastmaster International decided to give us this opportunity to do it. This was the rule from the very beginning. If you do the whole program, the DTM, to start over, you need to start from the basics. You cannot actually skip it. As I said, I already gave 4 icebreakers and went through 4 different level 1s, level 2, and level 3. I just tried to learn something new in each of them and challenge myself with doing something new. That's my answer. I cannot change what's done. I can only do, like, the tactic is the way to do things which we can do. And this is my approach here. Just challenge myself. I think Carl was first, and we will have 2 more. Carl.
To comment on the icebreaker situation, actually, Kyle was a master at doing different icebreakers. I know I've heard at least 3, and they all were different, and they were all very clever. So it's a challenge, perhaps, to expand your horizons a bit. I know in my case, I'm in 2 paths, and I just did my icebreaker in presentation mastery's path, but I did it at Peninsula Pros, and my speech was totally about my first Toastmasters Club. And a couple of you may have been there to hear that speech, which is entirely different than what I gave for my icebreaker for the first pathways path. So it depended, to me, it just depended on who the audience was and what little part of my life I actually wanted to talk about it.
Thank you so much, Carl. And I agree, Kyle. All your icebreakers are different and great. Fred, you had a question.
Sort of taking off on what the observations about Kyle and also Carl's comment was, I kind of enjoyed having to give additional icebreakers because they were just totally different. So I'll pick out a different part of my past that I want to talk about, or maybe a new subject. And I think the other advantage for those of us who stay in Toastmasters for a while is we keep getting new members, and they may not have heard of Kyle's or Carl's icebreaker because it was given in Carl's case 55 years ago. And so I don't think any of us heard that one. So to hear some of his new icebreakers, yay, we get to hear Carl with icebreaker. So I think that's one of the best parts of the new pathway system.
Perfect point. Arnie, you're on mute.
My biggest beef is and I have a slight disagreement with mapping projects 2 and 3 from the legacy program into the new pathways. And here they are. Project 2 in the legacy was specifically about organizing your speech. In the pathways, they talk about having a well-organized speech, but they don't have a project where the purpose and the evaluation is specifically on how well the speech was organized. That was only one of several criteria. And really, to me, the most important project in the legacy one was number 3. It was called Get to the Point. And it had a lot of great information about, they talked about how there are 4 general purposes of the speech, and then many different specific purposes of the speech. And the reason I think that's the most important one is that if you've ever come away from a speech or any kind of talk wondering, what the heck was that about? That was probably because the speaker did not have a clear understanding of what is the purpose of this? Am I trying to entertain? Am I trying to inform, persuade, inspire, what? And I don't see that specific part. I don't see a project specifically on how well did the speaker convey what the purpose of that speech was in the new pathways. And I think it would be great if they added that in, but they didn't ask me. So
Arnie, this is a perfect comment. And it brings me to one point I missed from my speech. What I actually put a binder of this PDF files, and I added a few things from the legacy program. I just scanned the manual I have, the Competent Communicator manual. First thing I added was the evaluation forms for each of these projects, which were very specific to the theme, as opposed to being very general. And there's nothing wrong about adding, I think, this kind of information into project 2 by ourselves.
No.
I don't think anybody is going to punish us. So great idea. Thank you so much for listening. And please ask questions at any time, Mr. Toastmaster.